Hi, it's Vicky here, and today I'll be using this stamp set by the Alleyway Stamps. I'm using this chevron pattern there, and I'll be creating my own pattern paper. So I have just a piece of white cardstock and a lot of blue ink pads. Now these ink pads are by Simon Says Stamp, and I also have one by Hero Arts, and I'm trying to put them in order so that I'm going to stamp from the darker to my lighter blue. I'm starting with Soft Navy by Simon Says Stamp, and as I color I'm going to share the name of the ink pad, but you can also check my supply list on my blog. You can find a very handy supply list there with images and links to the shops where I got my supplies. Now I'm moving forward and I'm using Island Blue. This is also an ink pad by the Simon Says Stamp exclusive ink pads, and then I'll go ahead and use I believe Mid-Tone Pool by Hero Arts. Using the Fiskars stamp press is really helpful since I can align my paper with the grid on the Fiskars stamp press. So now I move on, and I think now I'm using Audrey Blue, which is also a gorgeous ink pad by Simon Says Stamp. I think this is one of my favorites from their ink pads. I've used Audrey Blue twice, and then I went ahead and used my Surf Blue and Sea Glass, also by the Simon Says Stamp ink pads. To finish off my own patterned paper, I'll go ahead and do some blending. So I'm using again those two ink pads by Simon Says Stamp. These are my softer colors, the Surf Blue and the Sea Glass, and I'm using my new round mini blending tools by Tim Holtz to apply the ink. As you can see, I'm inking half of it with the darker color and half of it with the lighter color. So you can see that those round mini ink pads are not only meant to be used with distress ink, but they can also be used with any type of ink that you have on hand. The idea was to stick that panel on top of my card base, but this is where I changed my mind and I decided to cut out the top part of my patterned paper just to make it more interesting. So I'm using my Tim Holtz scissors there, and I'm just following the pattern. It's not so difficult as it seems, I'm just following the lines. And now I'm happy with my background, so I'll move on and start stamping my focal points. I decided to use this fun fish there, which is also by the Alleyway Stamps, and it's from the stamp set that's called Castaways. But first I'll go ahead and stamp my sentiment. I'm using black ink there, and I'm going to stamp it at the top of my card. I'll go ahead and cut out a hole there with one of my circle dies. I'm using my cattle bag, and I'll just decide where I want the hole to be, and I run it through my die cutting machine. And I have already measured, and I know that I can stamp the fish through this hole. I'm using a pencil, and I'll just mark where this is going to be. So I can now use my black ink and stamp the fish right inside that circle. But I'm using Memento Tuxedo black ink because I'll go ahead and use alcohol markers later on to color the fish. Instead of using Copics to color my fish, I decided to use Spectrum Noir markers. These are alcohol markers and they are blendable just like Copics. I really like how they come in sets, and it's not overwhelming to decide which color matches which one. So you get a set, and you always know that the markers that are included will perfectly blend together. I also like the price, and it's not overwhelming as with Copics, where you have tons of colors and you just don't know which ones to use. And since I'm not a big marker colorer, I prefer paper piecing. I think that these markers will work great for me. And the good thing about these markers is that you can change the nib that comes with the marker when you first buy it, and you can change it to a brush just like Copics have. And also they are refillable. So I guess these sets are great for someone who doesn't want to invest too much money on a marker set, but still want to have good results. To color my fish, I'm using my yellows set by Spectrum Noir, and as you can see, it comes with yellows and orange markers that they perfectly blend together. This is a standard card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm working on top of my card front. I have created my card using Simon Says Stamp ultra thick cardstock. I cannot recommend that cardstock enough. It has a nice smooth surface, it's nice and sturdy to create your card bases. It takes ink wonderfully. It's perfect for coloring with alcohol markers. You will see that it doesn't bleed at the back. And it also takes great distress inks. And now I'll go ahead and erase my pencil marks, and my card base is ready. So here is my small collection of Spectrum Noirs, but I plan to get more. These are the yellows that I've been using, the blues and the reds. There are 6 markers in each set, but you see that you get 3 on the lighter side, 3 on the darker side, and they all perfectly blend together. And now it's time to assemble my card. I'm using foam squares at the back, and I need to use a ton of foam squares there, just to make sure that that hole in the middle will not sink when I stick it on top of my card. I'm using tiny little foam squares around the hole, which I won't bother to peel off. These are there just for support, so by peeling off only the foam squares that are on the edges will be enough to stick that on top of my card. To finish off my card, I'll go ahead and use Wink of Stella glitter pen. This is the clear one, and I'm going all over the fish as well as over the chevron. You will see me adding some dots here and there. I'm not actually following the dots on the pattern. I'm just randomly touching the patterned paper. Finally, I'll use glossy accents on the eyes to make them more interesting, and although it looks milky at first, it will dry totally clear. This card I made today looks a lot with the card I made a couple of weeks ago that I have also shared here on YouTube. As you can see, it's the same idea, bluish background with yellowish fish, but just keep the same idea and change the techniques and you get a totally different design on a card. And I guess that was the card for today. I hope you had fun and got inspired. Thank you all for watching.